This week on Unscripted, we talk about more information on the quote-unquote what was known as the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal and what the WWE has done about that since. John Bravo has released his documentary and has failed to give any link between Roman Reigns and steroid allegations. We also go into, could the Undertaker return as the American Badass? That and more this week on Unscripted. What is going on, everybody? It's the Franz, and we are back for our next episode of Unscripted. I believe we're on episode 11 of this entire podcast I'm doing here. There wasn't much news this week as far as big as just little things. We do have the whole entire controversy of the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal, which is no longer the Fabulous Moolah Battle Royal. We also had John Bravo, who released his documentary, which really led to absolutely nothing, which I am skeptical on exactly what he was told to do with it. I do have the highlights of that transcript that someone decided to actually put out the major highlights, because why would you want to sit there and just listen to I can watch it all, which I have, and then just write down everything. At least I didn't want to sit there and try to write it down myself, because I am terrible at trying to get it all fast. Someone actually went out of the way and made it put out the highlights for things that you want to talk about, so I'll get to that later. We will start with the entire controversy that happened in WWE this week with the Fabulous Moolah. WWE immediately on Monday night, as soon as this thing, they had immediate backlash. There were people saying, fuck Moolah, this piece of trash doesn't deserve what they're giving her. This is WWE. Same thing with the Warrior Award, which WWE is a humanitarian award named after the Ultimate Warrior. He would sit there and say gays it's wrong to be gay and make outlandish remarks after his time in the WWF. But that's nothing compared to what this cunt bitch did to women. Her and her husband. Fabulous Moolah, real name Mary Ellison, has been repeatedly accused of exploiting women and abusing her power. Various stories have emerged claiming that she would pimp trainees out, hold them back if they were showing signs of surpassing her, and taking high percentage of booking fees. Former Moolah trainees, yes, that was pretty much it for the Fabulous Moolah. That was her and her husband. I think it was, where is it? Continue on. Pro Wrestling Sheet posted the following statement from former trainee of the Fabulous Moolah, Jeanine Mousset, better known as Mad Maxine and Lady Maxine. The Fabulous Moolah was a real-life heel. A lot of women paid to train at her school and then went out on the road. They risked life and limb in their matches, and she repaid them with the worst kind of abuses. She skimmed their money. She ignored women who were badly hurt. She pimped women out to creepy men and on and on. She was not a mother figure. She was more like Kali, K-A-L-I. I have no idea exactly what that is. The Indian goddess of destruction. I met her in my early 20s, and I had never met such a monstrous person. I was smart enough to get the hell away from her and to start my own independent career in Tampa as part of the Championship Wrestling from Florida. Luna Vachon, Peggy Fowler, and I all left together, which I hope put a serious dent in her confidence, if not her wallet. I understand why Moolah was so grotesque. Her family was dirt poor, and she determined that she would never going to be hungry again, but it doesn't excuse her dog-eat-dog behavior. I'd much rather see WWE establish a name match for outstanding wrestlers and decent human beings like Susan Tex Green, Beverly Shea, Lily Kai, Wendy Richter, who actually beat the Fabulous Moolah for her championship back when Fabulous Moolah held the title. WWE liked to tout that, Fabulous Moolah has the longest reign of a champion ever, which is like 20-some years. Well, that's because she was a cunt bitch who held everybody back. You think Hulk Hogan politicked his way to keeping the WWF Championship away from his opponents back in the late 80s, early 90s. He has nothing on the Fabulous Moolah. This bitch was just awful. They all put their hearts and souls into wrestling for decades and helped others along the way. But wrestling isn't PC. It's all about generating heat, and you can't draw more heat than naming a match for the Fabulous Moolah. May she be the last of her kind. Which, of course, probably not. Moose's statement come today. This, of course, was on Tuesday when she put out the statement. WWE announced the first ever Fabulous Moolah Memorial Battle Royal would take place at WrestleMania 34. An article from 2006 about allegations against Moolah was cited as reference to some of the claims made against the Hall of Famer. The article featured the family's former Moolah student Sweet George Brown making claims that Moolah threatened to beat Brown if she did not have sex with men sent to her hotel room, as well as being drugged, raped, and having money stolen from her by Moolah. And how did WWE in the beginning handle this backlash? This backlash that people was having against the Fabulous Moolah. You know that section below in these videos that people put on YouTube, the comment section? The backlash was so bad, and WWE did not want to hear this backlash, that they disabled the comments for that video so that no matter they didn't want to hear your opinion on this. And then you have Stephanie McMahon come out when this name was changed, and she says, "Thank you, WWE Universe, for using your voice. What remains most important is that the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal will be a historic match, which the name went from Fabulous Moolah to the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal, which, it's generic. Will be a historic match and is part of the WWE unwavering commitment for our women's division." Oh, really, Steph? Really? Our unwavering commitment to our women's division, yet you had it named after one of the most awful people to ever grace the squared circle. Somebody who did not give a shit about anybody but herself. I mean, she puts John Cena and him bringing people down, and Hulk Hogan, who didn't let anybody go above him at certain times in his career, to shame. This woman was awful. There was rumors, and I guess there was talk that people, the higher ups, wanted to do this when there were people in the company who told them, "Don't do this. This is a bad idea." Vince McMahon and higher-ups did not want to hear it. They were going to do this whether you liked it or not. I'm also hearing that there were women on Tuesday when they showed the tweets from Carmella. You had Carmella come on WWE SmackDown's TV with that little camera thing to do with the iPhone, and do I'm the modern day Fabulous Moolah because she has Fabulous on her top of her onesie. Like, you're going to sit there and have one of your women, the Miss Money in the Bank, mind you, come out and say she is the modern day Fabulous Moolah. You know how bad that makes Carmella look now? Apparently, some women did know this, and they were told by WWE that you have to say something nice about Moolah. We can't let the fans think that we're trying to rewrite history. We want the WWE fans to see Moolah in a good light. We don't want them to know that she was a bitch, she was a cunt, she exploited women, she hurt women, and she didn't give a fuck about anybody but herself. It is a crying shame that this company right here, with this entire entire problem right here, this entire controversy, showed how little they actually care about the women's division. Do you know how bad this would have gotten at WrestleMania? These are the smart marks. These are the men, women, and children who are going to go to WrestleMania, and no matter how many people if you hear any cheers for Roman Reigns between now and WrestleMania, are going to boo the living hell out of that guy. If this battle royal would have stayed as the Fabulous Moolah, and it's probably still going to be irreparable damage. You probably can't fix it even by changing it to the WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal. People are going to would have booed the living hell out of this match. And if anybody, like say Sasha Banks or Bayley, would have won this match, it would have killed their career. It still would have been the fabulous moment battle royal. Any woman who would have won this match, their career is dead, because the fans wouldn't even care anymore. You pretty much just took the women's revolution that you wanted to build up and be this whole high and mighty thing, which they have a 24 special called Empowered. I've been watching the WWE Network lately, going through 2002, and every so often, it's either the Kids' Choice Awards thing with John Cena and his quote-unquote family, which is just disturbing as can be, or it's a advertisement for this Monday, where they're going to have a video, a 24 special on, and it's entitled Empowered, which is a continuation of the women's revolution. But yet, last Monday, you wanted to make the fabulous Moolah Battle Royal. Do you know how hypocritical you are, WWE, if you would have came out and kept this Moolah Battle Royale, and then the next week you're having this whole video on the empowering the women's revolution, empowering them to be in Hell in a Cell, Royal Rumble, and Elimination Chamber, and of course Money in the Bank. And they talk about, oh, it's groundbreaking. The Royal Rumble was not groundbreaking, and the Money in the Bank ladder match was not groundbreaking, plain and simple. A lot of matches have happened for women in other companies, I'm pretty sure, and the Royal Rumble is just a static match. It's pretty much, this match right here has become a watered down version of what we had at 3 months ago at the Royal Rumble. Why they even thought that using this woman was a good idea is not even funny. Now, Stephanie McMahon said, "Thank you, WWE Universe, for using your voice." That right there is the biggest fucking lie that she has had for this entire thing, because it wasn't her voice from us. It didn't come from us. Why don't you say that, Stephanie? Thank you, WWE Universe, for voicing your opinion to our sponsor. Because the real reason the Battle Royal was changed, first reported earlier, is that Snickers, which is exclusive presenting partner of WrestleMania 34, stated that they were engaging with WWE regarding the company naming the upcoming Battle Royal at WrestleMania after the fabulous Moolah. Despite Moolah's controversial past, WWE has announced on Monday that the first Battle Royal for Moolah would take place at WrestleMania 34, which Snickers stated was unacceptable. We were recently made aware of the World Wrestling Entertainment Inc.'s WWE, which they don't even classified as World Wrestling Entertainment anymore. It's just WWE, the letters. Decision to honor a former wrestler during the upcoming WrestleMania 34 events. The statement from Snickers read, "As a principle-based business that has long championed creating inclusive environments that encourage and empower everyone to reach their full potential, this is unacceptable. We are engaging with WWE to express our disappointment." So basically, the whole reason this name was changed is because Snickers, a representative from Snickers got a line into either upper management or Vince McMahon himself and was like, "Listen, change the name or you lose our sponsorship, plain and simple." And you know how much WWE needs that sponsor money. With how much they've been cutting back, they need that sponsor's money from Snickers and anybody, and like Mountain Dew Kickstart and everyone else. So if Snickers comes out to them and says, "Listen, change the name, or you're going to lose us," Vince McMahon is going to call his department, his advertisement department, is like, "We got to change that name, change the damn name, or we're going to be in trouble." That's why it was changed. So the fact that you have Stephanie McMahon come on Twitter and say it was us when it wasn't us, the Snickers, some reps from Snickers saw the backlash from this. They're the ones who got it changed, even though WWE wants you to make it sound like we, the people, have a say, a thought, have a voice for them to listen to. Vince McMahon doesn't give a shit about our voice. This Vince McMahon has constantly tried. This is the guy who has constantly tried for years, 4 years, to put a guy at the top of the mountain where he so rightly does not deserve to be. Because so do you really think with all the boos, you go to quote unquote temporarily suspend Roman Reigns for what, a week? He'll be there next week on Monday Night Raw. He'll be there on Monday. And when Brock Lesnar doesn't show, we'll probably do something else with that too. This whole thing was a gigantic mess from the word go. As soon as the name Fabulous Moolah came out of Michael Cole's mouth this past Monday, and you had, and it was even worse that Tom Phillips the next day on SmackDown had to have a smile on his face when he mentioned her name too, so they could have a redone of the Battle Royal. Yes, they deleted the video now, so you know, all that good stuff. How are they going to justify this? You had Miss Elizabeth should have had this name. If you want to memorialize anybody, and Sherry Martel would be nice too, which I heard she was pretty bad backstage for certain people too, but look at the people that Macho Man Randy Savage, Booker T, and Stevie Ray, Shawn Michaels, and I think a couple others too, Ted DiBiase, were all managed at one time or another by Sherry Martel. She would have been great. Miss Elizabeth was the first lady of wrestling. People also suggested maybe China. I mean, and this is another thing. A couple years ago, Triple H was on Steve Austin's podcast, and Steve Austin asked, would China ever make it into the Hall of Fame? Triple H said on that podcast that he has three daughters, and he doesn't want to have them go look up Joni Laura China's name and see what she's done in the porn industry. Yet you are about to memorialize pretty much the devil of the women in wrestling history for the Battle Royal. Do you know how much of a hypocrite that makes Hunter Hearst, Paul Levesque sound? By a couple years ago saying China's not going to be in the Hall of Fame because of her past discretion with porn, but you were about to memorialize this woman, this horrible bitch, with an honor that she does not deserve. I do not care what she did in the Attitude Era, because I've just went through all that shit, and it was just awful. Just seeing her and Mae Young being exploited like that, they didn't help the product at all. That was some of that. If I was this age as I am now, I'm 28. If I would have been 28 during the Attitude Era, I would have been changing the channel when those bitches got on TV. I would change the channel when they would have Mae Young and the Fabulous Moolah show up on, Mae Young show up on WWE TV. In post-Attitude Era, whenever you hear that her little whatever the fuck theme that was, I would change the channel because that shit was awful. So yes, Vince McMahon, typical hypocrite. Stephanie McMahon, terrible hypocrite. Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Paul Levesque looks like a fucking hypocrite with this decision. They decided well, we're gonna change the name. We're gonna say it was the fans, but it wasn't really the fans. So it makes WWE, and you know, people, this coming Monday when this empowered video goes up, I guarantee you there's still going to be people on Twitter just lashing out to WWE because of this hypocrisy that they had. You want to highlight a woman who held your women's championship hostage for 20-some years and exploited women, and you had them. She exploited women. She had women get raped. She would hold women back. She was a terrible fucking person. And yet, this coming week, you want to showcase the good side of the women's revolution and say, hey, that was Moolah then. She was a great woman. She was a 20-some year champion. Now look how far we've come. Moolah took the women's wrestling far back into the dark ages. If Fabulous Moolah did not exist, women's wrestling would probably be a lot better off than it is today. Just saying. So, again, Carmella is another one of those things. I wonder how she feels today, knowing what she knows about the Fabulous Moolah. And she came on SmackDown Live with that little promo, calling herself the modern day Moolah. How does she feel about that? That's something I would love anybody who knows her to ask her. You went on live TV This wasn't SmackDown back in 2000 pre-brand split where you could record this stuff and then edit it out before the show 2 days later, 2 days before the show goes on, or 3 days depending on when it was Friday or Thursday, whichever. But I wonder how she feels going on live TV. This stuff's live. It's why do you think Raw has the name Raw? Because anything can happen on live TV. And she went on live TV and called herself, I'm representing Moolah, and I'm the modern day fabulous Moolah. Wonder how she feels now knowing everything that she knows. I'm sure it sickens her, the fact that she went on live TV in front of her fans, her friends, her family, and called herself the modern day fabulous Moolah. I would be sickened if I was her. This match is pre-show, no doubt. No matter what they want to do, this match is pre-show. This match does not deserve anywhere near. It is tainted. This women's battle royal is tainted for life. Everyone's going to be able to go back and be like, oh, they're still doing that women's battle royal? The one that's based off of, that they tried to name after the horrible creature known as the Fabulous Moolah. She doesn't even deserve the name Fabulous. Fabulous is a name for nice, cute, beautiful, stuff like that. Moolah wasn't fabulous. The total bitch Moolah is more like it. The total bitch Moolah. But that is that Battle Royal. We do have news that the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal will still be happening. According to this week's Wrestling Observer News Radio, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal at WrestleMania is happening despite not being promoted on WWE TV, because I'm pretty sure they're going to start promoting it now because they want to try and distance themselves as much as they can from this hypocrisy that they made this time. The multi-man match is still in works with the superstars from Raw and SmackDown competing. Now, I do... before they changed the name, they did say, and they still said the women's WrestleMania Women's Battle Royal is open to all three brands. Raw, SmackDown, NXT. They had to do that because the women are... there's not enough women on Raw and SmackDown to justify a Battle Royal, even if it was named the Sensational Sherry or Miss Elizabeth or whatever. If it was named after any woman, it doesn't matter. They had to open it to all three brands because they have not enough women on Raw and SmackDown to issue a 30, because they didn't want to do 30. And you have 4 of those women in matches on the main card with Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, not deserving of a WrestleMania match, but whatever, and Asuka and Charlotte. So they got to have, that's like, I think there's like 17 women. You're taking away 4, that's only 13 women. That's not going to be a good Battle Royal. So I can see Shayna Baszler and Ember Moon, Kairi Sane, Billie Kay, Peyton Royce, all these other women. This is going to be pre-show for sure, because you're not going to put NXT women on the main card, plain and simple. So we will see how that goes. Now, like I brought that up because I was like, if you're going to do that for the women, the guys down in NXT are going to be like pissed as fuck that they don't have an access to a WrestleMania match like the Battle Royal. I mean, yes, Hideo Tommy was there, but he didn't come up at the time. Baron Corbin made his debut on WWE TV by winning the Battle Royal a couple years ago. But other than that, and I think Killian Dane was in it last year. Other than that, they really haven't had men from NXT. Take 5 men from NXT. It could be the top stars, it could be the mid-carders, it could be somebody. Take 5 from NXT and put them in the men's Battle Royal. Because if you're going to do all three brands for for the women's Battle Royal, at least do the same thing for the men. So, because Drew McIntyre can make it. If Drew McIntyre is healthy, Drew McIntyre can make his return at the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. Is it the best thing for him? Probably not, but we will have to see. Either way, both Battle Royals don't really mean anything. It's just a way to get everybody on the card. Speaking of more WrestleManias, will Braun Strowman have a tag partner for his match at WrestleMania? It's been reported for the past week that the Raw Tag Team Championship champions Sheamus and Cesaro were set to face a team that currently is not a team at WrestleMania. This past Monday, Raw revealed that their opponent will be Braun Strowman, who stormed into a tag team battle royal and decimated all of the teams vying for the spot at WrestleMania in New Orleans. According to Wrestling Observer newsletter, Wrestling Observer's Dave Meltzer, Vince McMahon is unclear on whether or not Strowman will compete against the tag team by himself or with a partner. If Strowman has a partner, it has not been revealed to anyone yet. The auction among men versus the Bar was planned for some time, but caught many fans by surprise this past Monday on the USA Network. Up until this past Monday, neither Braun or the Bar had a match set for WrestleMania. Now, you gotta have him have a partner, whether it's Elias, Samoa Joe, or Samoa Joe's ready, or anybody else. There has to be a partner. Just having one man go into a tag team, I don't even care if it's Braun Strowman. I know that's just going to pretty much, like, if Braun Strowman was to go into WrestleMania and beat the Bar for the tag team titles by himself, what's the point of having the Raw tag team titles? You might as well end that tag team title match, retire those tag team titles, which, by the way, have been around since 2002. Those are the tag team titles. Those tag team titles that are around the Bar's waist are the ones Stephanie McMahon brought into the WWE in October of 2002 in a tag team tournament to declare the first champions, which were Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle, if anybody remembers that. So those titles have been around for 16 years. So if you're going to have Braun Strowman win the titles, you might as well just retire them, because yes, Raw's brand tag team division is terrible. Maybe you can have the Superstar Shakeup can bring some more life to it, especially if the Usos, of course, I think the Usos are going to lose the titles to the Bludgeon Brothers at WrestleMania, which that match hasn't been determined yet. We'll probably get more of that on Tuesday this week or the week after. But the Usos can come over, and pretty much the Usos, the Revival, the Bar, if Sheamus hasn't retired because of his spinal stenosis, because there has been times recently I've noticed on Monday Night Raw, I don't know if anyone else has, but when the Bar are done with the matches, you just see Sheamus with his hand on the back of his neck, just holding it, trying to ease pain or rub it so his neck doesn't hurt as much. So Sheamus' time probably is going to be done by WrestleMania. I could just see him being them losing the titles to Strowman and a partner, which Strowman and Samoa Joe, if those two were to become tag team champions, if they would do Samoa Joe as his tag team partner, oh my God, that just takes the tag team the tag team division up a notch. Especially if you have Sanity or the Authors of Pain come over from NXT, you bring the Usos over. That would give you the Usos. That would give you the Revival if they stay. If not, they're going to SmackDown. You have the Usos. You have the Sanity or the AOP. You have Strowman and Samoa Joe. You have the Balor Club. If you give them a push, you have Miz Taraj. That's a 5-team right there. You have Rhino Slater, which isn't a real a team at all. That team, I don't even know why they decided to go. Well, we have Slater trying to get a job. That I hated that storyline, I really did, and it's done nothing for him since they lost the tag team titles to, I believe it was the Wyatt family. So yeah. So hopefully they give him a tag team partner. They got to, because if it's a tag team match, now I could see him winning the titles, and then the next night on Raw, Kurt Angle coming out and was like, Strowman, you have to choose a tag team partner. It's either that, or by the end of the night, you have to give up the tag team titles. And then, of course, if Samoa Joe's not ready yet, then he's going to miss a second WrestleMania, which would be a shame for him. If he is ready, and quite honestly, if he's able to move, but not do as much as he would be able to 100%, he could totally just sit on the, I know it wouldn't be in his character, but you could have Strowman and Joe as tag team against the Bar, and have Strowman do majority of the work for Samoa Joe. I know Samoa Joe would want to go out there and just bust heads and do his own work, but if he could get him on the WrestleMania card, I would much rather see Samoa Joe sitting in the corner for a majority of the match, maybe come in and do his muscle buster or whatever it is to get him on the show, because he has worked his ass off in all of last year up until his injury. To not be on WrestleMania this year would be a damn shame for Joe. So if Joe is available, I would love to see Samoa Joe and Braun Strowman pretty much just destroy the Bar, send Sheamus on his way, and then see what happens after that. Moving on here, we have a reason for Ronda Rousey missing Raw this past week, and this was nothing big. It's not a big deal, like why people are wondering why did Ronda Rousey miss Monday Night Raw. Well, it was a mistake on the person who does the advertisement for WWE, and another reason was she was incorrectly advertised for the event, but according to sources, WWE incorrectly. She was already scheduled for medical testing in Pittsburgh. It was stressed that Rousey couldn't be in Detroit because of medical tests, and was never a case of her skipping the show for a different obligation. So, first off, why this stuff wasn't taken care of before she signed her contract is beyond me. She came out at the Royal Rumble on a handshake deal, obviously. She supposedly didn't sign a deal. She even reported that when Ramona Shelburne was at WrestleMania, which I saw her in the crowd. I'm not WrestleMania, but the Royal Rumble, I saw her in the crowd actually during the show. But after the show, she talked to Rousey. Rousey said that she hadn't signed a deal yet, which I find that hard to believe. WWE doesn't let anybody show up or get any kind of contact in WWE. Like when Rousey was WrestleMania 31, she did that hip toss to Triple H, she had signed an appearance deal. WWE doesn't let anybody show up. When Rousey showed up at Royal Rumble, she had to have some kind of deal. Vince McMahon will not allow anybody to do any kind of physical contact in WWE without having some kind of handshake deal or some kind of deal. But the fact that she had not had her medical testing done yet, because what if she gets her medical testing done and she has some kind of medical condition or something pop up that WWE catches, and now they have this match signed for WrestleMania between her and Kurt Angle versus Triple H and Stephanie, and she can't do it now because of some kind of medical issue. That was a bad oversight on WWE's end. Now, yeah, I'm pretty sure she probably applies with flying colors, but WWE should never, and I mean never, put themselves in that position that if this medical testing would have came up with her having some kind of medical condition, like maybe something happened, like maybe she had some kind of heart murmur or something show up that was missed and under other circumstances, why would you put yourself in that position, WWE? Because you have this big marquee match that you're going to be building WrestleMania as one of the big matches at WrestleMania, and you put yourself in that position that this wasn't done before she signed her contract, which she did, quote unquote, at the Elimination Chamber, even though she signed an actual contract before she went out there. WWE is not going to let Ronda Rousey come into the middle of the ring and put her hands on anybody in that ring like she did Triple H, and putting him through a table without having some kind of legal contract signed. So, yeah. Ronda Rousey also had some things to say recently. She said she has never been on a team like WWE. Would she rule out a UFC return? As far as WWE advertising her for every Raw until WrestleMania appears to be mistaken by someone who publicly. Wait, that's not what. Wow, wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, I missed that somewhere. Okay, I must have missed that in my notes or something. I was supposed to have something on her saying she's never been on a team and what she ruled out, but this is obviously I see what happened. Okay. But now, after this past Monday, she was pulled from all advertisements and then put back in all advertisements. Rousey is back in advertisement for each Raw TV taping until WrestleMania. A day after it was reported, she was removed from several upcoming shows. According to the ads, for each week, Rousey will be appearing on March 19th, the 26th, the 2nd, and of course, the second is the Go Home show. Rousey was originally advertised to appear on every Raw through WrestleMania by WWE. That announcement was removed sometime the other day. Rousey was also removed from ads from the Dallas and Cleveland shows, but has been added back to the two of the local venues website, as well as WWE.com's event info page. Quite honestly, in my opinion, with Rousey, her getting her hands on Stephanie McMahon already has kind of diminished the match. It's kind of diminished the match, in my opinion. The whole build-up of this match should have been Ronda Rousey finally giving Stephanie McMahon what's coming to her, that every single WWE fan since 2000 and whenever she, like, since I think 2011 or whatever it was, whenever she came back to TV. Because before the Authority, I think the last time she was on WWE TV was when she got RKO'd and kissed by Randy Orton. I could be wrong about that. But since she's been part of this Authority since Road to WrestleMania 30, which would have been in 13 and the 14, right? Yeah. She has been pretty much, I'll demoralize you, I'll slap you in the face, and make you feel like a lesser individual. And only time she ever got any kind of comeuppance was when Vicky Guerrero got fired, covered in whatever the hell she would like, that puddle match, whatever that pool of whatever was. Like that pool of like grease, grime, or whatever. Vicky lost because, you know, she got stuffed into it, like pushed into it, and then she comes out, clears her eyes. Stephanie McMahon's taunting her, and then Stephanie gets thrown into it. That is the only time that she's ever gotten any of her comeuppance. Then of course they had Daniel Bryan's wife Brie versus Stephanie at a SummerSlam, and Stephanie won that match because Brie's sister turned on her. Because, you know, Stephanie cannot lose on a pay-per-view because it's Stephanie McMahon. WWE, Vince McMahon doesn't want his baby girl to look weak whenever she can. So, you know. So having her pretty much do a sloppy Samoan drop on Stephanie McMahon the week after she signs her contract was, in my opinion, bad. It was great for TV, but it was bad. That should have been left on, she should have, had her grab, out of the thing, but Kurt Angle grabs Rousey and it's like, leave it for Mania, and hold that off. Because, you know, yes, the fans at wherever they were at a couple weeks ago popped when she laid Stephanie McMahon out. Imagine how that pop would have been. It's still going to be a big pop when she does make her squeal, unless WWE had Ronda Rousey get her hands on Stephanie now, because Stephanie McMahon's going to end up beating Ronda Rousey at WrestleMania, which would be the worst decision WWE did other than Roman Reigns winning the Universal title. So, her being on every episode of Monday Night Raw between the next 3 weeks really doesn't need to happen. Maybe they do work it. Maybe not physically they have her there. Maybe they show her working out in Stanford, because, you know, they're not going to have her they have. And here's the thing people don't know, realize, or probably don't remember. WWE's Performance Center is where all their performers go now. But WWE does have a private ring in Stanford, where Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey posted pictures or video of them working out at, because, you know, that's playing up to the storyline, because Triple H, the Performance Center, is where Triple H's baby. So why would Ronda Rousey and Kurt Angle work at the Performance Center, where Triple H sees all? Triple H has cameras everywhere. Why would they want to give away their secrets to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon when they can probably go to Stanford, which is a lot more closed off, and I don't think there's many cameras, or if any cameras at all, and get a private work in where they can't be seen by Triple H and them. So maybe seeing that video, that's it. But other than that, having her on, and because she needs to stand in front of a camera or stand in front of a mirror and work on her promo skills or something, because her promos are just when it's I'm serious, I'm gonna kick your ass, Ronda Rousey, she's got a good delivery. When it's smiley, I'm nervous to be here, I'm just overwhelmed to be here, Ronda Rousey, it kind of comes off pretty bad. So we will see where that goes from here. Moving on from here, we do have Jeff Hardy and Dean Ambrose injury updates. PW Insider has new reports out about updating fans on what they know about Jeff Hardy and Dean Ambrose injuries and recovery timelines. According to Jeff Hardy, PW Insider, Jeff Hardy has scheduled to be at the WWE Performance Center recently to work off ring rust and prepare for his in-ring return later this month. There is no word on if recent plans for Jeff have changed with his DWI arrest. Honestly, when it comes to the DWI with Jeff Hardy, yes, he has his past demons, and yes, he's had trouble in the past with WWE's wellness policy. This is not a wellness strike, because as soon as Jeff Hardy gets a wellness strike, unless Jeff Hardy over the last 9 months, 10 months, has amended one of his strikes, which in my opinion he probably should have, because it's the Randy Orton rule. If you have 2 strikes, which Randy had at one time, and you reach a couple goals that they have set for you, you can have one of those strikes stricken from your record. But this should not have any problems with him. The only, Jey Uso just got hit with a DWI a couple more weeks ago, and the only thing that kind of he had his consequences was that Universal trip that it was supposed to be Usos and Naomi, it just became Jimmy and Naomi, because Universal probably was like, we're going to take him out of this. That's the only thing that seemed to affect him. So I don't see this doing anything to Jeff Hardy. But they also noted that Jeff's wife Beth posted on Instagram a couple days ago that Jeff was undergoing his final physical therapy sessions today for a torn labrum and rotator cuff, and this time no such post exists on Beth Hardy's official Instagram page. It may have been deleted. And also, Jeff Hardy did put out a Instagram post a couple days ago saying that he thanked the physical therapist who helped nurse his torn rotator cuff and labrum back to health, and his injury is now obsolete. So he looks like he will be back hopefully soon. Maybe the night after WrestleMania, which is always that big pop. He will supposedly make a cameo in the Ultimate Deletion this coming Monday. Hopefully as Willow or Itchweed, so it could be something cool like that. Maybe all 3. I would love to see WWE allow Jeff Hardy to actually bring the Willow character to WWE TV at least once for this Ultimate Deletion. Just seeing Willow on TV, I'll pop for that. I will definitely pop if Willow actually shows up in the Ultimate Deletion. Itchweed, not as much. Not a big fan of the Itchweed, but I did like Willow in Impact Wrestling. It was a different side to Jeff Hardy that we don't even get to see. We didn't really get to see much of, other than when he was Willow in Impact Wrestling. So I would love to see the Willow character show up on the Ultimate Deletion and get the fans' reaction. That's usually when WWE's like, maybe. Because this could be something cool that WWE would do. Jeff Hardy on Raw, Willow on SmackDown. Win-win. Because the Hardy Boys really don't need to be on every house show. So you could have Jeff as Jeff Hardy on Raw and on SmackDown as Willow. Yes, that with both and it also works out too, because you have dual branded pay-per-views now. You could have Jeff Hardy wrestle one pay-per-view month as Jeff Hardy and the next one is Willow. Not on the same pay-per-view. I don't think anyone should get double duty unless it's warranted, like it is going to be at NXT TakeOver with Adam Cole doing the ladder match and the tag team match, which that's going to be nuts, and that guy's going to be going through hell in one day. The word backstage of Raw was apparently that Dean Ambrose would be heading back to Birmingham, Alabama this week to check his progress on his tricep injury he had in December. Apparently that injury seems to be coming along slowly, and he might actually miss up to SummerSlam now, which would actually be terrible for Dean Ambrose. But it's terrible for the fact that this guy who's worked his tail off and has wrestled more matches mostly for WWE than anybody else in that same span from 2015 to his injury, the fact that he's still missing time because of an injury, it's got to suck for him. But this would be great when he does return. If on his return night, like a couple years ago, I remember this. It was Triple H was out with an injury, or kayfabe injury. Ric Flair comes out a week before Triple H's return, and he's saying like somebody's going to return. He walks in the back, grabs the sledgehammer. It's like, next week Triple H will be here. The very next week, Triple H comes back, gets this huge reception, and then beats the holy hell out of Ric Flair, and gets this huge succession of boos. That would be something for Dean Ambrose to come back, get that big pop, have a tag team match or something that involves Seth Rollins, and then in the same vein of Triple H coming back and destroying Ric Flair, he comes back and destroys Seth Rollins. And I know Vince McMahon doesn't like the blood being on there, but when Dean Ambrose comes back and he turns on Seth Rollins, there has to be some kind of Not, crimson mask, maybe just a little dribble or something of blood, just to make it, to have the emphasis that this guy is crazy. He is the lunatic fringe. He is more dangerous than WWE fans know him to be. Get that Jon Moxley that I hear all about. I didn't get to really see Jon Moxley in Combat Zone Wrestling, CZW, but we will definitely see how that goes, and hopefully Dan Ambrose will be back. I would like to see him back the night after WrestleMania, along with Jeff Hardy, minus, of course, Jeff's appearance this coming Monday, supposedly, but we will have to wait and see. WWE trademarks major Raw superstars' name, or attempts to. That doesn't, they've applied. It doesn't mean they actually have it. PW Insider is reporting that WWE applied for the trademark to Samoa Joe on March 9th. This is the first attempt WWE has applied for this trademark to the name. Apparently, Joe has owned the trademark to his name since 2007 when he started wrestling as Samoa Joe. Which, hey, if WWE is going to trademark Samoa Joe, I'm hoping that means Samoa Joe will stay with WWE till he retires. It would be terrible for Samoa Joe, this guy who's wrestled since 2000. He's been wrestling as Samoa Joe before 2007. I'll tell you that right now. But he's owned the trademark since then. To this guy who's wrestled as Samoa Joe since 2001, 2002, to go to WWE, be there for a few years, get his name trademarked by WWE, say he doesn't want to work for WWE anymore, say he's he wants to retire and go off, or leave WWE and go off and do a couple indies before he retires. Well, if they own the name Samoa Joe, he can't be Samoa Joe in the independents anymore. That would be a kick to Samoa Joe, this guy who is recognized as Samoa Joe. You can walk out on the street and see this guy and know it's Samoa Joe, and the fact that he would lose the right to his name if he was to leave WWE if they gain access to his name would just be a detriment to Samoa Joe. And I don't know why WWE. This is another Vince McMahon, he has to own everything type thing. Vince McMahon just loves owning everything. Don't give it time, and he'll soon want to try and trademark AJ Styles if he hasn't done that already. News on a second triple threat match happening at WrestleMania. This is going to be the second of what I say will probably be 3 triple threat matches at WrestleMania, which is ridiculous. There is news on a second triple threat match for a singles title at WrestleMania 34 as the WWE United States Championship, which anybody with a brain saw this one coming. Randy Orton is currently scheduled to defend against Jinder Mahal and Bobby Roode, according to the Wrestling Observer newsletter. WWE previously announced a triple threat for the Intercontinental title, with The Miz defending against Seth Rollins and Finn Balor. This makes SmackDown look weak, in my opinion, because Raw, Kurt Angle made the triple threat for Finn Balor, Miz, and Miz, Finn Balor, and Seth Rollins, a triple threat match. So Daniel Bryan is going to come out probably on Tuesday and be like, Raw can do it, so can we. It's going to make SmackDown look bad, which Vince McMahon loves making SmackDown look bad after the brand split. Up until WrestleMania, SmackDown kicking Raw's ass for the majority of the time. Not in ratings, because 3 hours, whatever, but as in quality of show. So WWE announcing this triple threat match, not a surprise. But hopefully, can we get a stipulation? Ladder match, cage match. I want to see a cage match at WrestleMania. Not a Hell in a Cell. We've already seen 2 of those. Of course, the Triple H and Undertaker Hell in a Cell is night and day compared to the awful Big Boss Man Undertaker one we had from WrestleMania 15. So I would love to see Finn Balor. You know what? Cage match for the Intercontinental title and ladder match for the U.S. title. Give me those, and I'd be a happy dude. Has Asuka moved over to the SmackDown brand? This one puzzles me still. For those wondering, Asuka is still listed as a member of the Raw roster. She made her blue brand debut on this week's show, but she would likely remain on the red brand roster unless she defeats SmackDown Women's Champion Charlotte Flair for the title at WrestleMania 34. What is the point of naming your opponent at WrestleMania if it's on the other brand? You move to the other brand. You've had Chris Benoit, 2004, the very first person to do this. This is something also that WWE will never be able to, until if the truth ever does come out, which I think Vince McMahon and WWE had a dealing with it But unless this comes out as truthful, which I don't buy, the guy killed his wife and kid. But Chris Benoit was the first guy to win the Royal Rumble and choose to go for the opposite brand's title. But he didn't stay on SmackDown. He didn't stay on SmackDown until WrestleMania 20. He went to Raw the next night after WrestleMania, made his decision that I'm going for Triple H's World Heavyweight Championship, and he was on Raw from then on. Even if he would have lost or didn't win the world title at WrestleMania, which he did, he still would have been a member of the Raw brand. So the fact that they're having Asuka 14 years later, do the same exact thing and come to a SmackDown pay-per-view, come to the SmackDown show, and make her debut over there, she's not officially a member of that roster. It's just stupid as can be, and it makes no sense. It makes the decision pointless. So basically, if Asuka's streak is broken by Charlotte, which it won't be, just saying, if her streak is broken by Charlotte, then she just goes back to Monday Night Raw, becomes just like everybody else. Can anybody else tell me that? So you mean to tell me if Shinsuke Nakamura would have chose Brock Lesnar as his opponent, he would still be on the SmackDown brand until WrestleMania and would remain on SmackDown if he was not to win the Universal Championship. How stupid does that sound? Seriously, does anyone in this company think when it comes to booking? Because this makes no sense. So you're going to have Asuka on Raw this Monday to face Alexa Bliss, which she'll win. Which, quite honestly, if you're going to do that, she could say, I'm going to challenge for both titles because I won the Royal Rumble and I beat the Raw Women's Champion. So really, you could have Asuka versus Bliss and Asuka versus Charlotte in one night, if they wanted to do that. I honestly think this Monday's Nia Jax is going to get involved with that match and screw Alexa Bliss out of the match and then ultimately destroy her. That's trying to turn her babyface. But honestly, the way they booked this story between Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax is in poor taste and it's just stupid as fuck. How are you're warranting this woman who has lost countless times, which quite honestly to me, Nia Jax has been criminally misused on WWE TV. It looks like she's going to win the Women's Championship. It looks like she's going to go for the Women's Championship, and then they just bring her back. Not yet. You want the treat? You want the treat? Oh, you can't have it yet. You want it? You want it? Oh, you can't have it yet. They keep doing that to her. And it doesn't. It just hurts her. So now they're going to have her cry, make her look weak, and try and gain sympathy. Somebody the figure, the size, and the stature of Nia Jax is not going to get any sympathy from anybody. Because she can go out there, just grab Alexa Bliss, who was half her size, mind you, probably three-fourths her size, or 1/3 her size, whatever. She's going to just grab her by the throat, pick her up, and just slam her to the ground and just flatten her like a pancake and take her title. Honestly, this match at WrestleMania is on the pre-show. It's a squash match. She beats her in 3 seconds. Or 10 seconds. She goes in, just flattens her with the Samoan drop, hits her with the leg drop, 1, 2, 3, and the match is over, and we move on. That's all we need to see at WrestleMania. If we see a competitive match between Alexa Bliss and Nia Jax at WrestleMania, it's criminal, and should not happen. SummerSlam 2019, moving on here, reportedly moving to a stadium. In 2019, MetLife Stadium will host Mania 35 in East Rutherford, New Jersey. While the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York will host the week's WWE Hall of Fame, as well as post-Mania editions of Wrestling Raw and SmackDown, as well as, oh, wait a minute. That's interesting. So, we're going to have a NXT TakeOver at the Barclays Center. Not SummerSlam weekend, but actually WrestleMania in 2018. So, TakeOver in Brooklyn 5 will be actually in WrestleMania weekend, which, okay then. Barclays Center already has this year's SummerSlam event locked in for August 18th through the 21st, which is 18th, which would be NXT TakeOver, SummerSlam, Raw, SmackDown, and so on and NXT, I believe. The reliable WrestleVotes Twitter, which has been breaking a lot of news lately, is saying the other day that WWE could be potentially moving the summertime bash out of Brooklyn and into a much larger baseball stadium in 2019. WrestleVotes tweets: SummerSlam and the surrounding weekend events are moving on from the Brooklyn after this upcoming year. Location is still to be determined, but high probability of SummerSlam being held at a stadium venue, likely a MLB stadium. My problem with this is SummerSlam is not WrestleMania. SummerSlam is not WrestleMania. WrestleMania is in stadiums because it warrants it. You have men, women, and children from all over the world coming in to WrestleMania. Those stadiums are packed majority of the time. There's not many empty seats at WrestleMania. You put SummerSlam in a baseball stadium, you're going to pan to the crowd and see a ton of empty seats. Because Vince McMahon only cares about January to April for WrestleMania. From Royal Rumble season to WrestleMania season. As soon as WrestleMania is over, Vince McMahon is in autopilot. He doesn't care. So why would you want to put this event, which is called the biggest party of the summer, which it hasn't been in years, in a baseball stadium and try and give it that WrestleMania feel? You already put it to the put all big five pay-per-views to 7 hours of total content. So why would you want to put this in the stadium? Next thing you know, you're going to say we're going to put Survivor Series in a stadium, and the Royal Rumble and Money in the Bank are all going to be in stadiums. The big five are all just going to be in football and baseball stadiums. It's not going to work. I would laugh my ass off. In 2019, we get to SummerSlam and the majority of the stadium is empty. We're in a baseball stadium and the majority of the stadium is empty. This isn't the Attitude Era. This isn't 1999 when you had the Georgia Dome packed for a Monday Night Raw. Yes, they went to Georgia Dome and other stadiums like that a couple times in then towards the tail end of the Attitude Era with it's going to be funny if we go to a baseball stadium next year for SummerSlam and half the stadium is empty. It'll just be funny. Another NXT release happening with Christy St. Cloud has reportedly been released from her WWE contract today, or I believe this would be Friday. Yeah. According to the Squared Circle Sirens, St. Cloud, who's also worked as Christy Olsen on AfterBuzz TV and had been working as a backstage interviewer for WWE NXT today. Friday's release has yet to be confirmed by WWE or St. Cloud. If true, then good riddance. You sucked at your job and you gave nothing to the product. You were one of the worst. It's probably not her fault. The only person it seems like has any personality when it comes to backstage interviews to this day and age is Renee Young, and she's on the main roster. Charlie St. Cloud just sucked. She sounded like a robot. She sounded so mechanical, like she was made by the machine. It was that bad. So if she's released, good riddance. Nobody will miss you. This one's an interesting one. Could The Undertaker return as the American Badass for WrestleMania 34? I would love to see this, because with the way WrestleMania 33 ended, you have him have his gloves on, his jacket on, his hat on. He takes the gloves off, puts them on the mat. Takes the jacket off, puts it on the mat. Takes the hat off, puts it on the mat. Walks down the ramp, gets to the spot where he came up, and just raises his hand and he goes down. I would love to see the American Badass, but let's get into this. The Undertaker is set to make his return to the ring to face John Cena at WrestleMania 34, and it could be in his guise of his popular American Badass gimmick, which I don't know why they only had it from 2000 to 2003. Why they went back to the Dead Man after 2003. They could have did so much more with it, and it made it more easier, pliable for the Undertaker to do public appearances for the WWE. As the Dead Man, as the Undertaker, as the Prince of Darkness, the Undertaker could not. He was so invested in that character as the Dead Man. Maybe Undertaker wanted to go back to the Dead Man. I don't know. I think, and it looked like he had a lot of fun being the American Badass and Big Evil when he was a heel in WWE as the biker. But I don't know why they canned it after 2003. I don't know. Maybe Taker wanted to do it. Maybe it was a Vince McMahon call. I don't know. But like he could go on and you can have him do public appearances as himself because he could be himself. Undertaker as the American Badass and / Big Evil, he could be Mark Calloway and still have the respect of the fans. I just got done with. I'm in towards the end of 2002. Undertaker turns heel as the American Badass in 2001 after the invasion angle. He knocks out Jim Ross, stuffs Jim Ross's face in Vince McMahon's ass because the Kiss My Ass Club just started, and he turns heel. And every single time the gong would go off and rolling would start because he was still using rolling at the time. Every time he would come out, 9 times out of 10, he was getting a bigger pop than most guys on the roster. This guy was portraying a heel until he opened his mouth and started cutting down the fans. He beat the holy hell out of The Rock in this timeline. At this time, as the Big Evil, he just beat the hell out of The Rock. Shows up, and like it was like whoa! Like he shows up with his music the very next week. I think it was the Monday after, because I think it was after the brand split happened, the brand extension happened. But he shows up on the next show, and the crowd is just going wild for him. Like, this guy just beat the holy hell out of The Rock, and everybody on planet and like in this arena is giving this guy the respect because this guy has that respect. This guy, as the Undertaker, cannot play a heel anymore. He has that much respect from the fans. Like, I would love to see the American Badass. It would also, another thing it would also help because of that long-ass ramp. Him coming down to the ring on a motorcycle would, 1, be awesome to see, and 2, would get him down to the ring without him having to actually walk, saving his energy for the match. Because Undertaker, went halfway down the ramp last year. We're going to the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, which they're going to have a huge ass ramp. Last year, of course, he went down halfway up, whatever. Going down the entire ramp, he could be at the top, and there's also rumors, and I think we're getting that too, of Kid Rock going into the Hall of Fame, tying into this. The legend appeared to retire after losing to Roman Reigns at last year's WrestleMania. The dead man, real name Mark Calloway, left his trademark black leather coat, hat, and gloves in the center of the ring in a symbolic move, although he never officially announced his retirement. He did return at Raw's 25-year anniversary special in January, and Cena has made the fight personal mission to set up a mega fight at the Granddaddy of Mall, all in Ohio next month. Okay, I don't know why that says Ohio. It's I don't know why they put Ohio. I had that written down as Ohio for some reason. It's the Granddaddy of them all is going to be in New Orleans, not Ohio. There is a huge speculation among the internet wrestling community that Taker will make his comeback in the guise of his American Badass role, which he portrayed during the tail end of the Attitude Era. He made his return at Judgment Day in 2000 after taking a couple months off, which towards the end of his ministry, Unholy Alliance with the Big Show, he started not really portraying the dead man anymore. He was actually being more of himself leading up to what he would do. He left, of course, because he had an injury that he needed to address, and that's why he was gone and missed WrestleMania 2000. His second of only 2 WrestleManias he has missed. Undertaker has only missed 2 WrestleManias in his career since 1991's WrestleMania. He missed WrestleMania 10 and 15 and 2000. That's it. That's a hell of a record for a guy. This can coincide with the Kid Rock being named in the WWE Hall of Fame, with officials confirming he will perform live at Mania, prompting rumors that it could be Taker's original badass entrance theme. Which, by the way, and I noticed this after the first 2 or 3 weeks on the WWE Network. WWE dubs over the American Badass theme with "You're Gonna Pay" by Jim Johnston. Maybe they only had rights to use American Badass by Kid Rock for Judgment Day and a couple weeks after that. So it would be cool to see this. Cena is desperate for a match to happen, and it could headline the event at April 8th. Now, that would be awesome to see. Like I said, I don't know why, and I haven't seen anything reason why they scrapped the American Badass gimmick. Of course, anybody who doesn't know, Survivor Series 2003, it was Vince McMahon versus The Undertaker in a Buried Alive match. Undertaker, I haven't got that far yet. We'll get there soon. He wrestled Vince McMahon in a Buried Alive match, and Kane came out and buried The Undertaker alive, writing Undertaker off. I don't think he was actually injured. It was just for them to write him off to build time for him to grow his hair out, which he did a little bit. It wasn't too much, but to grow his hair out a little bit and, you know, resurrect the dead man gimmick, which when he did come back at WrestleMania 20, he did come back with his hair grown out a little bit, and he was still wearing a bandana. Like he was the American Badass dead, coming back. So yes, I don't know why they scrapped why they got rid of the American Badass, why he went back to the dead man. I would have loved for him to stay as the American Badass, but WWE did what they did. He has had a hell of a career as the dead man again. As he's like his dead man persona in 2004 to now has been a hybrid of the American Badass. Being like he's not a mortician anymore. He's a dead biker, plain and simple. If they wanted to, they could have him come as the dead man, but have a souped up motorcycle that would contribute to him being a dead biker. Instead of him just walking to the ring, you know, all that good stuff, he could actually be the badass, but using a rendition, like a remix version. Using his funeral march music to get down to the ring instead of Kid Rock. But it does feel like they did the entire Kid Rock induction by design, in my opinion. Why would you have, of all years, which is supposed to be Undertaker's last match, why would you have, of all years, Kid Rock being inducted into the Hall of Fame in the same year that the perfect time for Undertaker to come back as the American Badass? See the American Badass, I would. I, of course, missed the entire original. I mean, I'm watching it now on the network, but I didn't get to see the American Badass live. I missed that time because after I was a WCW guy. I'll say this and admit this as it was. Unwillingly, I was a WCW guy. I was 11 years old when WCW went out of business and the go-home show of WrestleMania. I did not see anything for, the only time before the final Nitro that I knew anything of the World Wrestling Federation at the time was when Owen Hart passed away, because I came into school the next day. I didn't know who Owen Hart was. I didn't know WWF. I didn't know of anything from that brand. I come into school and people I went to school with were down and bummed because Owen Hart died. And I didn't know who Owen Hart was. I do now, but I didn't then. So basically, what happened was where me and my sister, my brother, and my parents, we moved to at the time. We were living in a place where we only had Channel 7 and Channel 9. We didn't have, and the internet wasn't where it is today. We did have internet, but you didn't have the internet where it is today. So we didn't have pretty much access to WWF Raw is War, which it was until September, the end of September of that year. We didn't have SmackDown on UPN. We didn't have any of that stuff, so I didn't know anything about the American Badass. I, of course, got to see, I guess, a snippet of the American Badass when they when they had the entire eulogy of Kane eulogizing The Undertaker. I didn't even know who The Undertaker was until the gong went off at the Royal Rumble and Kane got eliminated because of it. So I didn't know any of that. I didn't get to see any of it live. I've seen it now from the WWE Network, and thank WWE because the network gives me that opportunity to meet or see or enjoy the American Badass. And when he showed up in Judgment Day 2000, until his demise in 2003, which I'm not there yet, and everything in between. So there's a whole litany of fans, including myself, who did not get to see this portion of the Undertaker. When, like, you have kids, you see those kids out in the aisle, out in the crowds. None of them know who the American Badass is. None of them got to see him live because none of them were alive at the time. Most of the kids are like 10 years old, maybe like 10 years old. If you are not 15 or younger, older, you don't know who the American Badass is. Like, I would say 15. I'd say, if you're like not, if you're not like in your, if you're not like 18 to 25, like 18 to 20 years old, because even if you were born in 2002, you're not going to know who the American Badass was because you were like whatever. But like if you're not a teenager now or in your early 20s, you don't even know who the American Badass was version of the Undertaker if you're still watching wrestling. You know of the Dead Man, the gong going up, the funeral march, that stuff, the lights, the lightning, all that stuff. You don't know this. That was a short period of time during the tail end of the Attitude Era and going on until the Ruthless Aggression Era. So to see this come back would just be great for kids and young adults who have no idea who the American Badass is without going back to the WWE Network. This would just be great for everybody. It would refresh the fans who were teenagers or young adults then to see the American Badass now. And it would also help the Undertaker because he could be himself. He doesn't have to put all the extra effort in to hide his identity, because his wife, Michelle McCool, obviously is not hiding his identity. She's posting workout videos of him on on her Instagram. And the fact that John Cena went as far as saying if you weren't broke down, you wouldn't be posting workout videos on your wife's Instagram, just puts that little needle in there. It's like, this guy's probably not coming back as the Dead Man, which he shouldn't. Yes, he came out to the ring at Raw 25, which, in the case that he did, he came to the Manhattan Center wearing that robe that he would wear most of the time towards the tail end of his time now, with the hood and everything. That he didn't wear that at WrestleMania. He wasn't wearing anything, as far as I know. For all we know, he wasn't even dressed underneath in anything like ring attire. He was just wearing that guise that he was. And of course, he said, "All the souls that I have laid can rest in peace," saying pretty much, hopefully, putting to end the Dead Man gimmick, and he could be the American Badass, which would also, in my opinion, help with his induction into the Hall of Fame. Because if you have the Undertaker as the Undertaker, Dead Man Undertaker, you're not going to see him even allow an induction into the Hall of Fame until he was dead and buried. Not in that thing. If they would go with the American Badass and he would just be himself, yes, they can have him come out and be Mark Calloway and just sit there like pound his chest and put his hand raised up in the end. And of course, the only person who can induct Mark Calloway, aka the Undertaker, into the Hall of Fame would be his half brother Kane. Just saying. But that is my thoughts. What do you think on, will the American Badass be riding down to the Raw ramp this coming Monday? If it isn't the American Badass, I would be a little disappointed, but I would not be surprised as well. But we will see what happens when we do. Moving on here, Reby Hardy lashes out on misinformation about the Ultimate Deletion. It looks like Reby Hardy took to Twitter this week and lashed out over reports on the Ultimate Deletion, which will air this coming Monday with the Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy. As noted, WWE has confirmed that Reby's Queen Rebecca character will be featured in the match, which was taped last week at the Hardy compound. A fan mentioned about James Borash and Matt were given creative control of the match, but that has not been reported by any credible source. We do know that Jeremy Borash was there to help with reduction of the match, and that's because he helped with original broken matches in TNA to make them a success. Reby wrote, "So much misinformation being touted as truth from people who have exactly zero real insight or information on what they are talking about. Seriously, unless you know, really know, just shut it with the scoops and speculate like the rest of them." This goon, aka named Uncle Smack, S-M-A-K, tweeted, Matt and James Borash got creative control over the match. James Borash is the guru who made the original final deletion. Dude, just like Rebby said, keep it to yourself, shut up, you don't have any credible source, and let the match go as it does. Would Vince McMahon give anybody outside his family creative control in Hulk Hogan? No. Not at all. Maybe Shawn Michaels too, but you know, that was that. This, like, Matt Hardy, like, the Vince McMahon does not see Matt Hardy as Jeff Hardy. So, yes, Jeremy Borash was brought there to give his insight on the match. He should have, he didn't make the original final deletion. Him and Matt and the crew made the original final deletion. He was a part of it. That's why he was brought there. Good on them, and hopefully it will be done right. We will see this Monday. I'm not an expert on the broken universe, so the people who are, if we get to Monday and the ultimate deletion is just junk or it's great, you'll hear from other people, because honestly, I don't know. I'll watch it and I will give my thoughts on it on Monday. Real reason there is no physical Hall of Fame. Dave Meltzer Reports has tweeted, no reason other than they don't, because Vince McMahon doesn't see economic value to it and nobody else has offered to foot the bill. Orlando, of course, has been rumored to be a spot for the Hall of Fame. Quite honestly, if they were going to do a physical Hall of Fame, in my opinion, it should be in Stamford, Connecticut, plain and simple. Hall of Fames should be where a tourist attraction would, like, you have the Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. What else is in Canton, Ohio besides the Charge now? Nothing. Nothing at all, really, other than the Pro Football Hall of Fame, which has a Hall of Fame game every year there. Cooperstown has the Baseball Hall of Fame. What else is in Cooperstown? I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Why would you put Orlando? Why would you, if you were to put a physical Hall of Fame, which I don't see happening anytime soon because Vince McMahon sees no reason behind it, and he doesn't want to pay for it. He wants a fan or somebody else to foot the bill, that's just Vince McMahon. He doesn't. He's worrying about his XFL coming out next year, which I'm not next year, but 2020, which I'm looking forward to. But he's not going to sit there and want to spend money on a physical Hall of Fame. If you want to see the quote-unquote physical Hall of Fame, you need to go to WrestleMania Access. Hell in a Cell's there. They have a Hell in a Cell structure built up. They have the Undertaker's graveyard. They have all the statues that are probably in Stamford when the Hall of Fame's not, when the WrestleMania season's not going on. They have all these items at WrestleMania Access. I myself would love to go to WrestleMania Access. I haven't been to one. I haven't been to a WrestleMania. I would love to go. Just time and money situation has never wanted me to be able to get to a WrestleMania. Maybe if things can turn around, maybe East Rutherford next year. Who knows? I would love to go to Access. I would love to be able to see all those items, take pictures, or have pictures taken of me by those things, even though I'm not a big picture guy. And of course, I don't have those looks in anything. But the reason there is no physical Hall of Fame is because nobody, Vince McMahon sees no economic value, which I think he's a fucking moron for that. And nobody else has offered to foot the bill. So if you are a wrestling fan and you hit the jackpot and you want a physical Hall of Fame, you need to contact Vince McMahon at Stamford, Connecticut and offer to foot the bill if you want to see a Hall of Fame. Until then, we're not going to see one. Johnny Bravo has pissed off a lot of people. And it's the fans. And I think he was paid off. Johnny Bravo had released his video. I did watch the video, and the very first things that came up after his little short monologue for wanting to tell the truth, but not having all the info needed for the truth, he said, had some text appear at the beginning of the show. Richard's laptop, this is what the first few texts said. Richard's laptop, which he has in his possession, was released in a court proceeding. It was one of his personal laptops was last used February 2016. Which, when it comes to Roman Reigns and most superstars nowadays, doesn't really do anything, but we move on. There are 3 other phones and computers that have information up to February 2017. They are still in possession of the DEA. I am waiting them to be released to conclude this investigation. The communication information contained in this is critical. First off, before I do anything else, do not put this video out then. If all this information you need is critical, don't put this video out. Because putting that line, they are still in possession of the DEA. I am waiting them to be released to conclude this investigation. The communication information contained in them is critical. Don't you think Vince McMahon is sweating bullets on this? Don't you think Vince McMahon has connections in the DEA? Don't you think Vince McMahon can make a call to the DEA or somebody, or call somebody to get information from DEA and to have those items just magically disappear? Bad move on John Bravo. Bad move. Only text messages up to February 2016 are currently available. However, I have in the entire 2013 to 2017 WFN database intact. The description on this video and the description at the bottom of this video pissed me off a little bit. The description, and I quote, reads, "This long-awaited video required 50 plus edits since the first edit contained material which affected the case of Richard Rodriguez." I'm telling you right now, that line right there tells me right now that he had to edit out certain spots for Roman Reigns and others that Vince McMahon does not want to have indicated in this. He does not want his WrestleMania 34 road to WrestleMania be destroyed by this guy. So Vince McMahon definitely probably paid this guy off, but we'll continue. I refilmed and re-edited the entire project to abide by those terms. This is the story of how the connections within WFN got started and the connected Richard Rodriguez to athletes, celebrities, and public figures. Filmmaker John Bravo, the evidence video against Roman Reigns, the evidence of WFN system. One of the key players with WWE connected is Rich. The main highlights from the video were one of the key players with WWE connections is Rick Bassman, the person who brought us Ultimate Warrior, and John Cena. One of the biggest clients of WFN, somebody using the identity of Jesse Ventura, not the real one, to purchase $40,000 worth of steroids from Richard Rodriguez. Names from this entire thing that would make sense, that WWE should be worried about. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, Steve Austin, Sheamus, Jinder Mahal, Mark Jindrak named all as clients of jail story dealer and former WWF owner Richard Rodriguez. Mark Jindrak and Steve Austin, I think you can just take out of that. They don't really matter. It's Mark Jindrak, I don't even know if he's wrestling still. And Steve Austin is just a ambassador. He doesn't really do anything really much with WWE except for show up on WWE here and there. The big names are Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, John Cena, and Jinder Mahal. And quite honestly, with how Jinder Mahal looks, I am not surprised. Brock Lesnar, John Cena are part-timers. WWE has put out there before that they don't test part-timers, which leaves Roman Reigns as the one name on here, the two names on here, Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal, that are big. Jinder Mahal, I can see being pushed down the card like that. Vince McMahon only gave him the title last year to try and get into India and give us a boring time on SmackDown Live, and brought the show and the title down to dark depths that it still hasn't recovered from. But Roman Reigns was named in this. Richard Rodriguez made sure WWE stars utilized his products properly and didn't fail WWE's drug test policies, which is easy to do. Anybody who has done steroids nowadays knows how to get past the drug testing policies. WWE Tough Enough winner Daniel Puder worked for Richard Rodriguez to effectively manage WFN's growing WWE list of clients, but also to market other industries like the UFC and public figures he worked with. Puder also brought in people like Bill Zarian. I have no idea who that is. John Bravo couldn't provide proper evidence for the Roman Reigns, as he says Roman Reigns purchased steroids under aliases below is the statement Bravo issued regarding this in this video. Even though contact information of Lete Joseph Anawale, aka Roman Reigns, and orders that Richard says are his were found on the laptop without direct text communications between them, they cannot be verified until they are received. So, you mean to tell me you have been hyping this thing for months that you had all the information? You had all the communications between Roman Reigns, Joseph Anawale, and Richard Rodriguez. For months, you have been posting this and saying, I have all the information. Now all of a sudden you don't? Now all of a sudden you don't. This smells of a payoff. Vince McMahon is so desperate to get Roman Reigns to be the next big guy, the next big thing, to be the next John Cena of this company, that he will go to the ends of the earth, pay off anybody and anybody he has to keep this guy on his WrestleMania 34 card, which, quite honestly, and Roman Reigns did have a nice little talk with Sam Roberts about all this stuff, and I'm not even going to go into that, because Sam Roberts is somebody that you don't even want, like, I won't even, like, mention, because he is a WWE, he works for WWE. He's not going to say anything on his podcast that is going to get him in trouble with WWE and Vince McMahon, because he wants to go work for WWE. I don't blame the guy, but it is what it is. So, quite honestly, we're probably not going to hear anything else from this. He failed, Richard Rodriguez failed to live up to his promises that he had all the information on Roman Reigns, and that's what we get from it. He doesn't have all the information, and the fact that you put in the beginning of this video that you are waiting for the DEA to get the rest of these items from the DEA, which surprisingly this wasn't mentioned before now, tells me that it will probably just disappear and we won't even know that Roman Reigns probably did get steroids from WFN, and Vince McMahon is doing everything he can to spare Roman Reigns. John Cena as well, and Brock Lesnar, but they're two part-timers, and as we learned from Brock Lesnar's last failure from the UFC, that Vince McMahon does not care about testing the part-timers. So, not much else I can say about this week. That is all for you Unscripted for the week. We will be back here on Monday for our Monday Night Raw review. We'll be here Tuesday as well, and Wednesday as we get ready, as we get closer and closer to WrestleMania. I'll be back here, of course, next Saturday for some more Unscripted. But until then, my name is The France. Find me on Twitter and twitch.tv at The France and The France 08. I will be seeing you guys later. Have a good afternoon, evening, or night, and see you all later.